Welcome to the new episode of RunToYoga Podcast with Tinkara Oblak. We're very excited to have you here, either for the first time or if you have been our listener. We would love to invite you to follow, like, or comment on our episodes. You can find them on our website, under community page, on Spotify, on YouTube, or on our Instagram. Today, we're going to sit down for a very meaningful conversation with Gabriella from Italy. So hopefully you're going to stay tuned and let us know what you think. Gabriella, thank you so much for coming today. We are very happy to have you here.
Thank you.
So I just want to start with maybe a question that I think a lot of people ask you, but if you could just tell us a bit about how you met with Iyengar Yoga, how you started practicing, what brought you to dedicate to your practice, because I read somewhere that you were actually studying physics. So how did you do this change in your life to actually live the path of yoga?
Okay, so I met Donna Holleman in Florence. She just moved here, and she was teaching Iyengar Yoga at the time. She studied only with Iyengar, and she was teaching Iyengar Yoga. So I liked the kind of yoga since the first day. I never did anything before, no sport, nothing. So I was completely new to any information. And I have to say, I practice since the first day.
That's wonderful.
Beginning, my practice was a little bit like I practiced only what I could not do. So the first time we did halasana, I could not reach with the feet the floor, and everybody else in the class could do. So I went back home and I tried and tried and tried. I could not reach my feet in Uttanasana or in Paschimottanasana, so I went back home and I pushed myself. But I was 22 years old. So I was young and I was stiff, but because I was stiff, I did not injure myself. And that is my story. And then after I finished my studies, I worked for 1 year at the university. And then after 1 year, I realized that it's impossible to do both things because I was very interested in doing experimental physics. I was doing experiment. And so it was difficult to do both. So I made the decision. And when I made the decision to dedicate myself only to yoga, I had only one class a week for students. So it was not, it was a risk. I knew it was a risk. And this was a year 77.
Mm-hmm.
Yoga was not popular at all. And here I am.
And did you travel to Pune to practice with Iyengar family?
Yeah,
I mean, when
I went to Pune the first time in the 83, and since then I went every year. I studied with Guruji, I studied with Geeta. The two of them were my main teachers, and also because after a few years, my teacher Donna, she left. She decided not to study anymore with Iyengar. She started to develop a kind of her own system. And I just went back to Guruji and I did only yoga with Guruji and Geeta.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm happy I did. I'm very happy I did.
So you're teaching for many, many years. And when you meet someone...
can count.
Over 50 years you are in Iyengar Yoga, which is amazing.
Yeah, but I have no idea what I was teaching in the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
I was doing yoga for a few years, and I started to teach in the studio of Donna Holleman, and with her help, she used to come to the class and suggest what to do. And this was a real mentor. And she would show, look at this, and I was totally blind.
But I
And
think you said something very interesting, because you said when you weren't able to do something, you went home and practice it.
yeah,
Because I think many times it is the opposite. We like to do what it's easy for us to do, and we try to avoid the things that
yeah,
are hard. So I think this is a very kind of
yeah.
valuable thing.
But at the same time, was not a real practice. Was I was like I could not jump up in Adho Mukha Vrikshasana. I did Adho Mukha Vrikshasana many times to learn to go up, because I had no idea what does it mean to have a practice.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I did, and I did, yeah.
And did you use props from the beginning? Because we know that
Okay, so
sometimes people
when
ask,
I started to do yoga, we did not have sticky mat. The sticky
mhm,
mat came much later. We had only few blankets. We did not even have belts. So I remember the first time I did Supta Parangustasana, I was just holding with my hands a foot. And of course, I could not stretch a leg. And this was one of the things that I tried to do at home, to try to do Supta Parangustasana without the belt. And then we used to make the belt. I used to make the belt by myself with the material from the jeans. I could buy that. So I used to make by myself. And then we start also to have bricks, but we used to take the bricks from the construction. So the real brick, they were
oh,
painful and they were making a lot of mess. They were breaking everywhere. And we had the carpet on the floor. So we were sliding, was not easy at all. I
so
remember the first time I saw a sticky mat in my life was many years after, was a white sticky mat from Switzerland. There was a yoga teacher that came to study with Donna Holleman. I had this sticky mat. We were so impressed to see the sticky mats. And then years later, they start to sell the sticky mat, the blue sticky mat. No, they was green, the green
mhm.
sticky mat from Germany. And in Pune, there is a marble floor. There was only this kind of thick mats
Mhm,
that they can still use for Sarvangasana. And there was also the belts.
mhm.
And and
So,
some blankets, the white blankets, that and nothing else.
so how did,
Nothing.
because you were going to Pune every year, how did props start to develop over time?
Yeah, and then Guruji started to have also wood bricks.
Mhm,
Yeah, so this was this thick sticky mat that was not good for standing poses. The standing poses were directly on the floor. Belts, and we were using the sticky mat for Sarvangasana and a few blankets. And I still remember the first time I saw a like the bench for Setubandha in Pune, or one Viparita Karani box.
mhm,
And for me was very good because I I could see one props after the other one, year after year after year. So, and I already could do the asana, already has some understanding about the asanas.
mhm,
So I learned how to use the props one by one.
mhm,
And I had a friend there, I mean, a assistant and a yoga teacher in Pune at the institute. Her name is Azita. She still teaches, and now she lives in Dubai. She teaches in Dubai, but at that time she used to live in Pune and teach there. So I used to meet with her during the practice time, and she used to explain to me how to use the props.
Okay, so this was gradually throughout the time the props were developed.
Gradually, very gradually. And then also what I did, I took some newspaper and did the shape of the props. And then when I went back home, I had a carpenter doing for me and copy. So I did my first Viparita Karani box. I did the Halasana bench and the Setubandha bench. And then when I had friends or students coming from abroad, they would copy and then make in other places. But I was one of the first in the West to use the props.
Because I saw in the book of Geeta, because I started to practice when we have already a lot of props. And then I opened first time the book of Geeta and I see she's doing asanas on the bench. She's using the window. She's using all these everyday items. So do you think it was inspired also from everyday using like different objects? Even if we go to nature, for example, we can find natural props.
Yes, of course. One thing that they were using a lot in Pune, they had at the window, they had the crates, the bars, and they're using that also a lot for standing poses to hold. And one thing also that was there from the beginning were the ropes. Because even the teacher of Guruji was using the ropes. But the difference is that Guruji made the ropes with the hooks on the wall, and this was his own introduction. Yeah,
So
but
he was
the story is that the first time that Guruji used a prop was a stick, and because because he used to say yoga is for all, they took one older person to the class and they said, show how you do yoga with this person. So he took a stick and put a stick between the feet to spread the feet. And then he used to use the item from the kitchen of the wife, like the pot to use the chapati, to cook the chapati. And the story is that every time the wife had to cook, had to go to the husband and say, give me the chapati pot. And then also Guruji started to try to make the props, and he had a carpenter doing, and every time he was trying and then asking to do some changes. So there are a lot of thinking. There is a lot of thinking with every prop. And sometimes some props we start to use in the beginning and then we don't use anymore. They are out of fashion. Maybe I have even one. I show one prop here that I have. Okay. This is a prop that we used to in the beginning that we call the heart bench. And now they don't have anymore in Pune. We don't use anymore. But this was the first one that we used to make here because it was easy to make. And then when they start to have the Viparita Karani box, we stopped using the other one. Okay. And the chairs also, we had a chair from the beginning. Yeah. We also had this metal chair that you all know. But every other props, the stump, all the benches, the trestle, everything came later. And I know that it's a long story. Sometimes some of my students, when they come to the class, they see one prop and they say, can I buy this? Can I buy this other thing? Can I buy? And then maybe the year after I ask, are you using? And then most of the times the props end up under the beds. And then sometimes I say, if you want, you can say, give me back. I can give you back the money. It's a waste to have the props under the bed. And so, because it's not so easy to use the props. If you don't understand the asana, if you don't understand the action of the asana, it's not easy to use the props. So it's better in the beginning just to do yoga without props and then introduce the use of the props.
So maybe in your case it was good because in the beginning there was not so many props, and now sometimes we start with a lot
Yeah,
of props.
I was lucky. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a good idea if a healthy person to start with with a lot of props. I think that we start with a lot of props when we have to do therapy. If the
Mm-hmm.
person cannot walk or has any other condition where they need some asana, when they need the benefit of the asana, but they cannot do independent
Mm-hmm.
because limitation or because lack of strength, then it's good to use a prop so they can stay enough long to get the benefit of the pose. And
Mm-hmm.
this is a case where we need to use a prop since the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's not a good idea. It's overwhelming. It's too much. To start
Mm-hmm.
to do Sarvangasana directly with the chair and not to understand how to do Sarvangasana, it's not a good way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's for everything else. But of course, if I have a student with neck problem and then they need to do Shirshasana, I would use the poles or now they have this fit up from the
Mm-hmm.
beginning. I would just use it, but otherwise I would just use the normal Shishasana and then introduce the props. I was
Mm-hmm.
just in one place where I was teaching some therapy,
Mm-hmm.
and I was teaching how to use the props for Shishasana. And I realized that if the person was not really good in the Shishasana, was not even good on understanding how to do. This was about the teacher. And if the teacher does not understand how to use a prop, then how can you use for your students? And this
Mm-hmm.
is the prop itself does not do the asana.
Mm-hmm.
And this
So
is what I was saying. It's not enough that you say, I have the poles, I have the chair. Yes, but if you don't understand how to do, what's the point? So
mm-hmm.
it would be much, for the teacher particularly, it's very important to understand the asana and then to how to use the props for that asana. And then maybe you can help the students because you know exactly why you need to use the asana, what benefits you need to get from the asana. But
Mm-hmm.
I also say that now there is a little bit of talking about that to use the props is not yoga. Okay. And I say, only if you never experience what does it mean to stay in some asana with the props for a long time, and if you never got the benefit of it, you can be against the props.
Mm-hmm.
But if you understood the benefit, if you understand the positive part, you cannot be against it.
Mm-hmm.
But it needs years. A new person coming to yoga, any asana, from Trikonasana to Uttanasana to Adho Mukha, it's only painful because the body is stiff, the body is rigid. So
Mm-hmm.
as long as you are in the what Guruji was calling the gross part,
Mm-hmm.
you just feel the pain, nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
To arrive to refine and to understand, to feel, okay, to get the feeling and to get the benefit of the asana, props or no props, it takes time.
Mm-hmm.
It takes time. And unfortunately, there are many kind of yoga where they copy the props without really understanding how to use that. And then it's a pity.
Yes, I think now it's very popular. That's why I also really welcome this conversation with you because I
Yeah.
think it's very important to understand why props were developed, how and how to use them.
Yeah.
And you were talking a lot about the benefit of asana and support. Is maybe something else,
Yeah.
some other
Okay.
added value?
I just want to say, in general, when you do an asana for short time, you get a benefit at the level of physical muscles, bones, joints. It's necessary. It's good. Is very important when it's possible to do it. If you stay a little bit deeper, longer in the pose, you get the benefit for the organs. If I need to do for the heart, for the lungs, for the organs inside, for the abdomen, if any issues with the abdomen, you need to stay longer. You need to stay, you cannot stay 1 minute. It's not enough. You have to be able to stay. And that's why the props are important. But if you want to have the benefit at the level of mental level or at the level of the nervous system and mental level, you need to stay even longer. And this is when most of the people are not able to stay in the pose, and then they need to do with the props. So like if I want to stay in Paschimottanasana for 10 minutes or 15 minutes, if I have a bolster and I put the forehead on the bolster and the arms on top, or if I have a blanket to sit higher, maybe I can do it. But who can do Paschimottanasana directly on the floor and go down and stay there 15, 20 minutes? It's hard. But so the timing is important. And the timing, to be able to do the timing, you need practice. Okay, I cannot take a new person and say, now you do 10 minutes or 20 minutes Paschimottanasana, because then cannot walk after. Takes time. But when it's possible, or when it's almost possible, and then I use a prop, like Setu Bandha. Setu Bandha is a very important pose for the nervous system. But if I do Setu Bandha active, like Chatuspadasana or Setu Bandha from the going down from Sarvangasana, maybe somebody can stay 3 minutes, 5 minutes. I don't know. But if you really want to get the benefit at the level of nervous system, you need to stay longer. And then, so you use a bench, you use a Viparita Karani, the Viparita box, you can use the bricks. You need, if you have if you know how to do and you have the props, you get more benefits. And that's why I say you can be against the props only if you never experience the benefits.
Yes, we can only talk through out of experience.
Particularly with the age. Because even if you are healthy, when you arrive at a certain age that you have less muscles, less strength in the muscle, not less muscle, the muscle become weak. It's of course is very important to continue to work for the muscle, to do asana for the balance, to do asana with standing only one leg is important. But it's also important to be able to use the props. Like now I am 76 years old. Okay, 76, and I use the props now more than before. Every day I do some asana using the props, and I appreciate now much more than 20 years ago, than 30 years ago. And I remember Guruji, when he was 80, when he was 90, using a lot of props and stay a long time in the asana. And now I know that he was working on his heart, on getting the benefit for the heart, because most of the asanas he was doing were asanas that they get the benefits, that the heart gets the benefits, to stimulate the circulation of the heart.
I have also personal experience because I have some health issues, and now I actually started to appreciate so much more the usage of props, the benefits of staying a longer time, of calming down, not always just rushing to a certain destination. I think also, as you said, with the older we get, the more we embody and understand.
And you're not old. Also when I was young, I remember older people, when they were doing yoga, they were doing Supta Parangustasana, Supta Konasana, almost nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
Because also, or just stopping or not doing. And now with our with these props and also with the other understanding,
Mm-hmm.
we can do. We can continue to do no matter what is the condition.
Mm-hmm. That's
Yeah.
great. And do you think that, I mean, do your students sometimes feel a bit overwhelmed with using props, especially if they're new students? Or maybe if you try to introduce over time some props,
If
because
they're
I know
not, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
very
yeah,
overwhelmed in the beginning.
yeah. But that's why with new students, I try to use as little as possible the props, as
Mm-hmm.
little as possible, because it takes time. First they have to understand how to move, where they are on the space, and then you give first you start to give a brick, you start to give a belt, you start to give little things, not too much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I had to learn really that is difficult to appreciate, to understand and appreciate the props. We use more in the special need class. We call special need the therapy class. But I have many assistants.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying do this with these props. And also we put a prop and we put a person on the prop.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a different. But this is for special need.
But would you
Yeah.
still recommend for someone who has props at home that they have maybe blocks, belt, something more, I don't know, maybe more basic? Because maybe if sometimes we practice at home, we want to do more restorative. I think it's good to have
Yeah, you
also
go to a class, you learn how to use, and then you use. But again, the prop itself does not make the asana. We have to understand how to do it. So
Mhm,
even for simple asana like Supta Parangustasana, if you put with a bolster, if you put the bolster to push up the lumbar, then
mhm,
there is tension on the abdomen. So you have to be careful and put the bolster supporting the chest,
mhm,
so that the abdomen can rest on the sacrum and not the sacrum pushing into the abdomen. So a
mhm.
minimum of understanding is important. You cannot just take, okay, buy the bolster and then I can do this asana. And then you, uh, but
Yeah,
the same way, even if you practice asana without props, without understanding, if you do
mhm,
Trikonasana without having any understanding of Trikonasana, you have the chest completely forward, the buttocks, the pelvis back, the chest completely forward, you just compress the diaphragm, you can, so it's it's the same.
yeah.
Uh,
It's the same with or without.
with anything, I mean, you have a computer, can be a great tool, but if you don't know how to use, what's the point?
Yeah,
You
that's
need
great.
to know how to use it. It's the same thing.
Yes.
So it's a mentality that some people think that the yoga is very simple, and
Mhm,
they think that they can just learn and teach yoga in a few years, and it does not work, because to this is particularly for teaching. You really need not only before you learn how to use the props, you have to learn what action you need in a different asana.
mhm,
And then you can use the props or not. It depends if you're able to do, and it depends how much time you need to be in the pose. For
mhm,
example, if I want to do the practice of yoga only for the osteoporosis,
mhm,
I don't need much props, because it's more important to stimulate the bones.
mhm,
Uh, but maybe I can put one hand on the wall, and for the osteoporosis, is convenient to do a lot of asana, to stand in one leg, to stay long time. So there is more weight on the bones, and you stimulate the bones. If I do the same asana with the back on the wrestler, holding the wrestler, it's not so good for it does not get the same benefit for the osteoporosis, but maybe I can get more benefit for the chest, or maybe I can get more benefit for the femur head, because with the support, I can put more the femur head in. So it's for any asana, first we need to know why you're doing, what you want to get from this asana, and then you can decide what props you need and how you do. Even this morning I was practicing with the teacher of my school, and I was explaining, for example, if I do Ardha Chandrasana with a wrestler, if I have the wrestler on the back, I can put the arm back and I can get more opening on the chest, and then I can put the femur in. But if I start facing the wrestler, and then I put the body resting on the wrestler, the foot on the wrestler, the head resting on the flat, it's cooling. It can be, it's cooling for the mind. It's completely different, and it's the same prop, same asana, but using the props in a different way, and then it's completely different one. You can use Ardha Chandrasana to stimulate the thyroid. You can use Ardha Chandrasana as preparation for back bends. Then you use the wrestler in another way. So it's like the computer. More knowledge you have, more you can use the same prop in many ways, because I don't think it's necessary to have a lot of props. For the practice home, particularly for the personal practice, it's always better to start with few props. The brick, the belt, the blankets, and the sticky mat. Now, these are important to be able to do the practice. But to have the room full of props and then you get stuck, you don't know how to use it, it's not a good idea. And you were mentioning that being outside. When you are outside on the space, particularly if you have like a grass, some place that it does not have stones on the floor, is good, very good to do yoga, because you have no fear of falling. So I learned I used to practice outside. I have a place where there was some grass that was not flat. Some places flat, some places slope, some places a little bit more. So I learned how to do head balance dropping back, how to come up again. And this was when we did not have the props. Now in my yoga center, I have at the wall, I have the grate, and then I have some sliding board that I can put, so I can do for the students, and I can change. They can be a little bit more, I can be a little bit less. They can use for forward bends, or they can use for back bends. And to be able, for example, to do Urdhva Dhanurasana, instead of having the hands flat, but the hands a little bit with the fingers lower than the wrist, it's much easier for the shoulders. And so now, instead of doing outside on the grass that I could not do in the class, for the class, I do this in my yoga center with the props.
What are the most used props in your classes, for example? What's maybe your favorite prop?
Belts,
I know this.
No. I mean, for the class, belts and bricks. That's are the most used. Apart from that is the Viparita Karani box. Yeah,
that's very great. I didn't use it so much.
Because the Viparita Karani box you can use for Setubandha, you can use for Supta Virasana, for Supta Varakonasana, you can use for Viparita Karani. And
I just learned to do Chatuspadasana with my head back because I'm working on my thyroid.
Yeah. In fact, I use a lot the Viparita Karani box. In fact, I have a place in the country where I go for vacation, and I don't really have a yoga room there, but I have sticky mat, belts, the Viparita Karani box, and bricks. And that's the minimum you need.
What about the foams for Sarvangasana, or you just use the blankets?
Oh, the blankets are great. I don't like the foams really much, but when I don't have, I use a bolster.
Okay.
Yeah, the bolster. Now I like more to use bolster. Yeah.
Yeah.
When to use the foam, you have to be careful that the foam are enough hard to support the elbows, enough soft not to press into the neck. So when the props, when the foam blocks are too hard, I roll a blanket at the end for the neck. When they are too soft, I put an extra support for the elbows because the weight has to be on the elbows in Sarvangasana, not on the neck. So again, it doesn't matter what props you have to understand how to use it.
Yes, I think that's the most important
Yeah.
message. So I wanted to ask you one last question that we
Yeah.
ask all of our guests, and because for us, especially the new generations, that we didn't have opportunity to meet the Iyengar family or practice with them, what was some of the most significant memory that you have of your time in Pune? Something that stayed with you. It doesn't have to be your favorite memory, or it can be maybe something that's really you still carry with yourself to this day.
Okay. For about the yoga was that Guruji was in the class and was helping, was adjusting. So I've been adjusted many times by Guruji and personally, and this has been very important for me, even if sometimes it was a little bit too much. Too much because I was young in the yoga. Even if I was doing already for 10 years, but was young in the yoga. So it was psychologically was a lot. But I really learned a lot. This was in the class. Outside the class, what I really I was impressed by the Iyengar family. This was in the beginning, in the 80s, that in the weekend, we used to go to do a picnic outside. So the whole family, the whole Iyengar family was coming, and then we would go to one place or the other place. Often was some holy place, and then we were eating all together. We had the food. And even Geeta and the sister were helping serving the food. So for me, this was very important because I could see that even in the class, Guruji and also Geeta were very strict. Outside the class, they were wonderful, very easy to talk with them, very easy to be together, to be friends. And so this was, these are the two things. So after Guruji helped me so many times, when I went back to eat to home and I was practicing alone, I always was questioning myself, why when Guruji was helping me, I could do more and by myself I cannot do it. So I was, in my practice, I always struggle to learn to go deeper into the pose, to go deeper like when he was helping. And now, when you have these huge classes, it's very difficult to help everybody. But still, when I teach, when it's possible, I prefer always to have somebody else on the stage, if there is a stage, and go around and help. And I do the same in Florence. I have a small room with 15 people, and my room is full. So I have somebody staying in the front, and then I go around and help. I am the assistant, I am the helper. even if I'm leading the class, because it's important to feel, to receive the help
Mhm.
in order to be able to understand really what to do. And
Mhm.
now I teach also a lot online.
Mhm.
And yeah, I do regular from October to June, and now
Mhm.
I finished. From October to end of May, I do regularly the class online, and of course, online there is some benefit. I explain more. I can show. I can use somebody to show, and I can explain. So there is something. But the class in presence where you can see and where you can really adjust a person if the person does not understand, or you can give a prop, you can show how to do, is different. It's
Mhm.
better. Yeah.
So you teach in your studio in Florence online, but you also have workshops. I know you are coming.
I do everything.
You do
I have online classes that is only online. I do one class that is in presence and online. I do
Mhm.
classes only in presence in Florence. And then I do a workshop, yeah, convention
Mhm.
workshop. And I also do long retreat in Tuscany near
Wow.
Florence. Yeah. I have a place where usually we do 6 days retreat,
Mhm.
including the food, where I have a lot of props.
That's
In
great.
proportion to the students, more props than in Pune. So I can do asana where everybody has a Viparittakarani box. I have a lot of Simhasana boxes
Mhm.
that are also great because the Simhasana box, we call Simhasana, most of the people use for twist, but in
Mhm.
reality is an heart bench. Is very important for very important, very useful for the heart. The Simhasana
Mhm.
box, yeah. And so I have a Tressler, I have bricks, I have bolster, I have a lot of props because my idea is to do in such a way that the students can really experience
Mhm.
how to use. I have a stump, the different kind of stump, the one that is narrow, the one that is round, the one that is this way, the little stump for the heart, everything.
Mhm.
More than in Pune, I mean, more than in Pune in the sense of proportion to
Per
number
person.
of students.
Mhm. That's amazing. We are very excited to have you in Slovenia soon, in October, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the
This
first
year I put
weekend
it
of
in my
October.
yeah. This
Yeah,
year I put it in my calendar. I'm luckily
yeah,
not traveling, so I'm very excited to also see you in person and experience practicing with you. I
thank
want to
you.
thank you from the heart to take your time and joining us for this conversation. And we're gonna see you very soon.
Okay, and if you have more questions, something you can ask. If you want to know how to use some props,
Mhm. Yes,
you can
we can
ask.
always contact you and
Yeah, you can always contact
get
me. I see that you put a lot of props, particularly lately I saw the ropes, many
Mhm.
ways of using the ropes. Yes. Yeah.
Yes, we introduced the double buckle belt,
Yeah.
uh, and it's very interesting
That is
also.
also very, very useful. Yeah. That is particularly to learn to do the rotation of the thighs.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because unfortunately, most of the people, when they practice Tadasana or when they do Shishasana and back bends, they roll the front of the thighs out. And so
Mhm.
then what happens, the skin of the buttocks go to the center and there is compression on the spine. So
Mhm.
when you use a double buckle belt to roll the thighs in, then this person can really experience what does it mean to maintain the rotation of the thighs.
Mhm. Yes, I think for me it was really what brought me also to Iyengar Yoga. I had so many injuries, and suddenly I was feeling better and better, class by class. So I think it's great that, of course, we practice without, but also that we have this opportunity, even if we have injured or if we have a
Yeah,
disease, that we can have the support and continue to work towards.
injury,
In,
disease, and age.
Mhm. Yes.
There are many reasons. Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
great.
Okay. Thank you so much, Gabriela.